Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you don't know who I am, what's up? My name is Brianna, and today we're going to talk about my abusive ex-boyfriend. I'm not going to talk about or say his name in any of this video because I don't think he deserves that type of attention. You know, it's one of those things where I want to get the story out because I think it does need attention and people do need to talk about stuff like this, but I also am trying to be a little bit careful because I don't think again, he deserves the attention, or two, there's a lot of friends of his that I'm sure are watching this video. So I'm not doing this video to bash him. I'm not doing this video for any of that. All I'm doing is because it's my story. It's what I've been through. And I'm going to talk about my side of the story. Yeah, trigger warning, this is going to definitely coincide with suicide. It's going to be talking about abuse, like actual domestic abuse. It's going to talk about mental abuse. So if you're any of those things are sensitive to you, I do not recommend watching this video. So let's start from the beginning. I met somebody. We're going to call him... What are we going to call him? We're going to call him... We're going to name this person Bear. But I met Bear on the internet on an app called TikTok. Back in the day, it used to be Musical.ly. And we basically connected through that. In the beginning, I was not interested in him in that way. I found him as just a friend, and I don't know what happened, to be honest with you. Everything was such a blur in that moment, because the happy times to me, it's like I almost don't remember them. We met, we started talking back and forth. At the time, he lived in a different state, and I live still here in Texas, so I wasn't really for the long distance situation, but I did like having somebody around and to talk to who did what I did, which was Musical.ly and TikTok. Back in the day, like, people didn't really care about that app. My birthday is on January 3rd. So on January 3rd, you know, he missed my birthday because he was going to go travel to somewhere else. I'm not going to name anything. I don't want to put any names in here. To go visit somebody and a few other friends that he also met from the internet, from the same app. So it seemed like he had a lot of fun. Great for him. But this is what always happened. In the beginning of our relationship, everything was a very walking on eggshells is what I would call it. Meaning I've been in really shitty situations and shitty relationships before him. So I already had baggage walking in. And I knew that his past, he had a past of cheating a couple of times, or maybe once, I'm not really sure, nor do I care. Not my business. But, you know, he did have that, I guess, for me, already not trusting people. When I heard that he did and he told me he did, I already kind of started getting like squinty-eyed, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know about you. There was always a competition with him, I felt, personally. I felt like I always had to compete with another woman, or like all of his friends at the time were females, and all of them were females that he's hooked up with. They weren't just, you know, platonic friends. I mean, these were friendships that he either tried to connect with and it didn't work, or got friend zoned, or he did connect with and got friend zoned. So, you know, these friends were very flirty and stuff like that. And me at the time, I was very overweight and I was dealing with my own internal, you know, I was very self-conscious with myself. And so these girls were absolutely stunning. And I just would always compete and compare myself to these females, which already enough, I should not have gone into a relationship feeling that way. But that was all I knew. You have to understand, like, back in the day with dating, all I knew was toxic. I decided to give him a chance anyway, but going into it, I was already not okay with the female friendships that he had, because to me, they were not friendships. And here's the thing with me, you guys. I understand, like, female friends can be friends with males, because I have a male best friend, and his name is Sko. Love you, Sko Isel. But I'm also really good friends with his girlfriend. And I just think that that is a common courtesy. And if there is nothing that's going on between you two, there should be no issue on the girlfriend, you know, meeting the friend and the friend wanting to get to know the girlfriend out of respect for their guy best friend, right? So, like, I just never understood why the girls never really went out of their way to get to know me. It was always very confusing for me, because I just have never been that person. I guess that's where we can really start, where this whole toxic relationship pretty much started, which was in the beginning. He missed my birthday and went to go visit this friend, a few other friends, but specifically one friend. And, you know, it made me feel really shitty, because she was the main character in this toxic female battle that I had with him. In the beginning, I did not like her. I guess I could say, like, back then, I felt like I did really genuinely have a hatred for her. Knowing what I know now and seeing the things that he said to her back in the day, I know now he purposely kept us apart and purposely wanted us to not like each other, but he had a very manipulating way of making it seem like he was trying. So around me, you know, he would message her and be like, you know, I really want you to get to know Bree and whatever it is. And then she would message him like really mean things and would make her look bad. And when it came to her, like, he would talk to her about all of our problems. Like if we got into an argument, he would either call his ex-girlfriend of 6 or 7 years, which already enough had me feeling shitty, or he would call, you know, this girl and tell her about all of our problems. And I'm talking in details. I'm talking he would send screenshots of our fights. He would do all of that. There was another person he would talk to. It was just always females. And I just never understood why he did that. They would like shit talk about me and stuff like that. And it made me feel really terrible because I felt like there was a bond there that I couldn't break. Like I could never, ever get in that realm of friendship even with him. Like, and I feel like when you're with somebody, you should be best friends. Like you guys should be together. You guys should want to tell each other everything. And you know, I felt like I was forcing it out of him. And I'm sure he felt that too. And that's probably why he couldn't do it. Maybe because he genuinely we never really felt it. We thought we felt something there, but I don't think anything was really there. I personally think we created something that was nothing. It's really hard for me to tell this story because there's so many broken parts in our relationship and there's so many details that I don't feel like I need to disclose in this video. That is what's making it hard for me to go into full detail because I could show screenshots and all these things, and in my mind I just don't think that's appropriate anymore because it's been a couple of years and I just don't think that's appropriate. However, I will be showing pictures of what was done to me at the end of this relationship because that is forever part of my story now. I was not a victim. I'm not saying that, but I am saying that it does need to be talked about. So, moving on. There would be like times when I would try to get to know this female, and specifically because they talked every single day. And I'm talking like in books of text messages. Like she knows. Her and I are very good friends now. We're best friends now, ironically. But she and him would talk in books, and she had this whole persona of who I was, and it was just like totally not fake. It was totally not real. It was completely inaccurate, and it was all because of, you know, her assumptions, but also because him agreeing with those assumptions behind my back. So I'm hoping you guys are understanding what I'm saying here without actually saying it, if that makes sense. I always felt like I had to one-up her, and I never could because I felt big. And this is the truth. I felt fat, I felt ugly, I felt depressed, and she was like this skinny, beautiful, blonde bombshell, you know what I mean? And in my mind with, an accent, like nonetheless, like, and I'm sitting here like I'm nothing. Like this is like, I felt like, I truly felt like he was dating me because that's all he could get at that time. I felt like the bottom tier for him, and he was just settling. And with her, she was like a 10, you know what I'm saying? So that was my mental state at that time in our relationship, okay? And that's how he made me feel every single day. And I know that's so dark, but I would try to explain to him. I even sent him seminars, you guys. I'm talking like I went out of my way to watch like 2-hour seminars sometimes, like trying to make sense of why I was feeling the way I was in our relationship. And for some reason, I just could not leave. So like there was so many times like we would fight, and we fought more than we actually had a great time. Like it was very rare if we had a night that we did not have an argument. And it was always leading back to the same arguments, which was about females or about, the silent treatment that he would give me when we would fight. That's something else I just never could understand. When we would get into arguments, like he would just go off the grid for like days, like 2 or 3, 4 days at a time sometimes. And during that time, he's posting about how, having a great time. Like, and he knows I'm watching these stories. He knows I'm watching all of this. And then he's like posting about this female on his story. And like, I know they're talking every single day. And, I would reach out to her, and like, I knew she wasn't telling me everything, but I knew that they were talking every day. And it just got to a point where I started to shut down completely. Like I genuinely started to shut down. And I became I guess this is like when I got on the verge of like suicidal thoughts. I've never had that type of thought before. I've never been suicidal in my life. I've watched a lot of my loved ones, lose other loved ones because of it. I've watched, I've been to funerals for friends that have actually committed suicide. I was always against, suicide. I just think it's just, there's so many people out there that love you. But I think at that moment, I really understood why people felt that way, because I felt alone. Like, it didn't matter how many people actually did love me and care for me. I felt so alone. That's why I started doing like Musical.lys and TikToks, because it was like an outlet for me. So I could use, sad songs, and I could really just like, I guess, put my personality out there and talk about how I was feeling without saying it out loud, with just using sounds. And I knew that he'd see it. I knew she'd see it. And it became like a weird obsession in a way. We're going to jump to a friend of mine, which I'm also not going to name. She's no longer friends with me, but we were friends at one point. I flew out to go see her because she was in the middle of an abusive relationship. And I didn't realize like how dark and sad it was about to get. And when I got there, he came with me, my boyfriend at the time. He was supposed to be there for support, and he started drinking. When he drank this specific bottle, I think it was Captain or something, like some kind of whiskey. And when he drank it, that was the meanest I think I've ever seen him in that point in our relationship. He was in my face, and he was telling me, we got into an argument over the female again. I think we were talking about the female with this girl that I was visiting. And this girl I was visiting also was from the app, so she knew who she was. And at the time, actually, her boyfriend dated this female that I would fight about with my boyfriend all the time. So she knew very well who this female was. And we would just like argue all the time, and we argued right in front of her, which really made me sad, because she was there because of that abusive relationship. We were there to support her. And here we are arguing right in front of her, screaming at each other. He's telling me to slap him. And that was the first night that I laid my hands on him. And that was because he literally was in my face telling me to slap him, because I think he was trying to let me get my anger out, because I had so much internal anger. And he's like, slap me, go ahead, do it. And I did it once, and I did it because he was in my, you guys have to understand, I didn't want to slap him for no reason. I didn't want to slap him at all. I don't believe in domestic violence. I don't believe in putting your hands on anybody. But at that moment, he made me feel so mad. And I think he did it on purpose, and he was drunk, and he was mean. And he got in my face and was like this close to my face, you guys. And he's like, slap me, do it. And, eventually, like, you're going to push somebody. Okay. And eventually I did. And I think he's like, do it again. And that's when it made me think like, okay, maybe he's doing this because he knows I'm upset and he wants me to get it out. And it wasn't like a fight. I mean, at that point, I don't know how to explain it, you guys. You see what I mean? I struggle with this story because there was I don't want to defend my actions, because my actions, what I did was wrong. But I want to say that it wasn't something where I just was like, fuck you, and just slapped him. Okay. It was really antagonizing me to do it. And that girl that was there can vouch for that. We had it on recording, which I so wish I can put in this video, but it would show his face and I don't want to even show that on camera. So he was, telling the camera, he literally told the girl that I was with to record us and was like, slap me. You ain't gonna slap me. You ain't gonna do a goddamn thing like that, you guys. So he's like, 60 seconds of you not doing a goddamn thing. And, I told him, I was like, you're acting just like this girl's that we were with's boyfriend. And he's like, no, I'm not. It was just really abusive and really mentally abusive. So that was the first night it got a little physical. And, he went to bed that night, and I ended up going out the next morning with my friend that I was with, because she was going through it with her boyfriend at the time, back, and he was fucking livid. And I think, I don't know, at some point in this argument or whatever it was, like a cop came to our door because we were being so loud. I think somebody had called the cops for like yelling because him and I were fighting so bad. And when the cops came to the door, they asked where he was. And I made a joke saying like, oh, he's dead, like that. We were drunk, and I think I was just trying to be funny, but it wasn't funny at all. It was not funny at all. I think that's what I said, like, oh, he's dead, trying to be funny. But I think then he really like looked at me, like the cop looked at me like, bitch, what? So he went in the house and obviously, told him. So he ended up calling his ex-girlfriend that day and telling her everything that happened, which right there pissed me off even more, because I'm like, this is why we're fighting. Like, why would you go and tell your ex-girlfriend, which is happy, you're making me look so bad, because that was not my prettiest moment, obviously. And again, I'm not condoning my actions, but I just don't think that him putting her in it and telling her every little detail that happened was appropriate at all. Not in a new relationship. And not with the fact that was like my main problem with him was females. So after that night, I think that's actually when it started to really get bad. So there was a point, and again, these stories that I'm telling you guys are so out of order too. Like, I honestly can't remember if this happened before this or after this. Again, this relationship was so toxic that things happened all the time. So, and I'm also telling the story because I'm here to let everybody know I was no fucking angel at all. I was no angel. I made mistakes. I did things I shouldn't have done. I retaliated out of anger. And I was in a really bad state of mind. So yeah, I'm not condoning my actions at all, just so you guys know. Oh. At another point, there was a time when I went to go visit him, and we got into an argument over this female again. And he ended up literally canceling the ticket that he bought for me a day before I was supposed to go, and didn't tell me, you guys. Literally, I had all my stuff packed and I almost went to the airport. If I did not double check to make sure I had checked in, I would have never known, and he would have let me show up at that airport to find out that I didn't have a ticket anymore. So that was really messed up, I think. And when I tried to ask him, like, did you cancel my flight? He ignored me. For like 2 days. I called him at least 20 times. I texted him. I was crying. I was trying to hide it. Keep in mind, I'm in a household with my stepdad at the time too, and I didn't want him to know, this side of him yet because he hasn't met him. And I'm like, oh my God, like, I can't hide these tears. I started like bawling my eyes out because my tickets was like canceled and stuff. And after him completely making me apologize for feeling the way that I did, which I thought was completely not his place to do ever. You never tell somebody that their feelings are inaccurate or wrong. My feelings are my feelings, you know what I'm saying? And he made me feel like my feelings were wrong. And he wasn't going to let me come unless I apologized for feeling the way that I did. So he talked me into it, and I apologized. And that's how our fights always were. I always apologized. And he gave me the silent treatment. Because he knew it drove me crazy. Or if we talked, he acted like he wasn't bothered because he was talking to this other female all day. So, he's in this really good mood all day, even knowing that he's completely ignoring his girlfriend. Completely. Knowing that I'm crying. Knowing that I'm trying to get his attention. He fed off that. It was his medicine. That's how he got through the day, was making me fucking miserable. Sorry for cussing, but literally making me miserable. And I remember when I got there, we tried to put everything past us and I was there for 2 weeks. And we ended up, I met his parents and everything. And, we stayed there. I stayed there for 2 weeks. Now, there's some things that happened there too that I don't even want to go into detail about because it's so... it just makes me feel eerie, and I don't really want to talk about all that. But I will say there was one fight that till this day I will never forget. And we broke up on that trip for like a couple days, and he was going to fly me home. And at the same time, he's messaging her, knowing I'm right next to him in bed, crying my eyes out, begging him to let me stay. He's texting her. And it's because I think it was because I went through his phone or something, and I lost my shit that day. I think all my jealousy kind of just amped out, and I ended up lashing out on her. And he, of course, always stuck up for her. And I guess that's why we broke up or something of that sort. I probably have all the details wrong because it's just been a while since this happened, obviously. So it's been 2 years. So we talked it through, I guess, and I ended up staying. Well, that night, we got into a really bad fight. Like, he started yelling at me. I was yelling at him about this female. His mom was even getting in it. His mom agreed with me. Like, you can't have a female friend like this close to you and be with this person. You can't do both. And I remember he just would not let it down. He was like, he's like, I'm not going to stop being friends with her for her, and blah, 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 whatever. And that night I remember he was in a hoodie or something, or maybe I'm getting the different day wrong. He was in my face and he kept saying, you're broken. And I was like laying on the bed. I remember him screaming at me. And I remember that day I was crying and I packed my bags. And I remember I just like ran away kind of. It did not work in my favor. It's like when I tell you guys this story, like these stories make me sick to my stomach now because it's never something I would do now. Like it's never something I would even tolerate now. You know what I mean? So telling these stories brings me back to a place that I was in that I never ever want to come back from, or I never want to like, go back to. So yeah, so when you see me pausing randomly, it's just because I'm reminiscing a little bit in a bad way. Like it just brings back really bad flashbacks. So anyways, I took the suitcase and I remember in the middle of the night, I was like walking around this not so great neighborhood and I went into someone's backyard and I just tried to hide from him. I remember him finally finding me or whatever and telling me he wasn't going to take me home. Something of that sort. And I know for a fact he felt powerful because I was begging him to let me stay and like begging him to not break up with me. I was. And I remember that night we eventually I guess he finally put away his ego for a second and decided to forgive me. And I think that was part of his whole manipulative game, narcissistic game. He fed off of me being sad. He fed off of me hating the silent treatment and doing it to me, knowing that it was actually working in his defense because I was begging him to stay. I was begging him to do this and that and this, whatever. So he made me feel like I was wrong, and I once again apologized for feeling a certain way that he did not agree with. So that was another incident. And the reason I'm telling you guys these incidents is because even though they might not be in order, these were the fights that led to the final fight. So I would say the one after that is the one right before the actual really bad one. And it was at a point when we got like a hotel. It was like a motel to stay. It was in Dallas because I lived with my stepdad, so there was nowhere for us to stay, and I think he was visiting or something like that. We had a meet and greet. That's right, a meet and greet for TikTok, and a bunch of creators were going, and him and I got a hotel, and then we had an Airbnb like the next night. It was just cheaper to do it that way, I remember. So we got a motel and we started drinking, and we were having a great night. I remember he went to the bathroom, and I remember he got a text message or something. Or no, that's a lie. I just remember just going to his phone, because then I'm like, oh my God, I want to see if he's been texting this girl. And I started reading their conversation, and it broke my heart. Like, it was them talking about, because we were going to go visit her. I was actually going to go meet her, this female we always fought about, because I was trying to hear him out, and I was trying to become friends with her. And this was at a point when her and I actually were becoming friends slowly. Like, after all the hatred and shit like that, we were finally starting to kind of like come into a common ground. And I remember reading these text messages, and I remember that it was said something of the sort of like, so no more road trip. Like, she asked him, no more road trip? Are we not going on a road trip anymore? Apparently they had planned a road trip together without me. And we were a couple. And he's like, unfortunately not. Like, she's coming now, talking about me. Something of that sort. Again, I could be getting the words wrong, but it was like very similar to what I'm saying. And I remember her saying, well, it's fine as long as I get to see you again or something like that. And he's like, yeah, I don't care what I have to do, whatever it takes to see you. And that really, really made me feel like he was using me as a tactic to go see her, because he knew that he couldn't see her without me, because we always fought about her, and he knew that I wouldn't stay with him, which honestly in that time of my life, I probably would have. And that's the really sad part. But I think he used me as like a tactic to see her, even if it was with me. Okay, you have to understand how manipulating works. Just because I'm with him doesn't mean that he's not going to just see her. He could be using it as a way because she lived very far away, you know what I mean? And I think he was trying to like make me feel like he was making an effort, but like at the end of the day, he was really there for her. Like, he wanted to see her. I mean, they planned a whole freaking road trip behind my back. So anyways, I read these messages. And like she would send him pictures, and sorry girl, I love you now. You know I love you to death, girl. I'm not going to say your name in here just because. But back then, like she's the girl that I'm now best friends with that we would fight about all the time. Let's just call her let's call her Ash. Ash, you know why. With her, she's a very like open person, meaning like you could ask her anything and she would literally tell you or show you. And then she would always like send him pictures sometimes, not always, but she would send him pictures sometimes, and she'd be like in lingerie or like a bikini or something, asking him for advice on like an outfit. And you know, he would make comments like, oh, like, cause I guess she like, there was one at one point, like there was one where she was like in lingerie or something, and she didn't want to send it to him out of respect for me or something of that sort, and or because it was weird because they were friends. And I remember him saying something along the lines of like, oh, come on, I've seen you naked before, or something like that. Something like that. I could be wrong. So yeah, that really, really pissed me off. And I remember when I read those messages about like whatever it takes to see you comment, when he came out of the bathroom, I addressed it. I said, yo, what the hell? What is this? He got mad and reversed the entire argument by saying that, why am I going through his phone? Which, of course, why am I going through his phone? It's because of the things he kept doing to me. I was like so obsessed with what he was texting her and doing, because every time I looked, I always found something. I always found something that was super hurtful, said about me, and like I never wanted to be made a fool, and I felt like a fool, you know? I hate talking about this shit. I really do. It's like I like talking about it because I like to, it does let me take things off my chest, but at the same time, it pisses me off every time I talk about it. It really does. Leaving the motel because we were screaming, and I went to the front office because I needed to get out of the motel, and I really wanted to just like leave and get my own room. There was like a death look in his eyes. Like I can't explain it, but it was like he really just kept staring at me. Like it was a death stare, and he had like red bloodshot eyes. You could tell he was tired, and we were drunk, and all the fighting. I mean, he had those bloodshot eyes because of that. I mean, he doesn't do like drugs or anything like that, just so you guys know. But yeah, I mean, at least I know when I knew him, he didn't. I remember feeling scared to go back upstairs. And at some point, like I remember some guy approaching me, and I was so scared to go back upstairs, I actually almost went into the car with this random freaking man to go home, and I decided not to. And meanwhile, he's outside watching me just with a death glare, waiting for me to come back upstairs. He actually called the cops on himself. That's what happened. He called the cops on himself because he told the cops that he felt like he was going to be abusive. That's what happened. I remember him getting in my face. I remember him that this was the night he was wearing the hoodie, and he was in my face and pushed me on the bed. And I remember him just yelling at me, and I was begging him to do it. I was like, you know, punch me, do it, whatever, because I really thought he wasn't going to do it, if that makes sense. And keep in mind, like this kind of brings me back to the first incident where it was reversed. You know, he was telling me to hit him, and I don't know what it was. I almost felt like his manipulative tactics kind of rubbed off on me. So I started using that same behavior, which that's where I think I was in the wrong. Like I should have just left. Or he should have just left. And we didn't. We continued it. And the cops show up and asked me if I'm okay. I told him I'm fine because I really didn't think that anything was going to happen. And we ended up going to bed eventually. And the next morning, I remember him waking up. Oh, and keep in mind, the night that we were fighting, he told this female that we always fought about, Ash, that he did what he did. He called the cops on himself. Now, meaning at the time, he actually had a warrant out for his arrest. So I don't even want to talk about that. It's not my business. So let's just leave it at that. But she was super, super angry with him. And I think that was I think what she told me was like, it was her first glimpse of realizing like he wasn't who he said he was to her. Like the type of person he portrayed to her, she was starting to see outside of the lines of the things I was saying that she never believed. So when I messaged her and was telling her everything he was doing and how he called the cops because he thought it was going to be abusive, she couldn't believe that he would get himself in a situation like that or do anything like that. So the next morning, you know, at this point, Ash is no longer talking about him or talking to him. She's now talking to just me. And this is where her and I started getting close, because I think she realized in that moment, okay, Bree actually is telling the truth on some stuff. You know what I mean? Because I was obviously dramatic on some stuff, but for the most part, I was really trying to get her to know the guy that I knew. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't as nice as he was to her. Okay. To me, anyway. So after that fight, this is later that night, I believe we got an Airbnb. We went to the club with a bunch of creators. It was really fun. Everything was a great time. Now, I was kind of in the mood, I guess you can say, on the way home. And we had somebody in the back seat with us, and I was in the front seat, and he was driving. I remember we were like sexting each other in the car, and like I did lead him on in that sense, because I really at the time was in the mood. Now, when I got back to the Airbnb, I was exhausted. I didn't want to do anything anymore. And at that point, I got him all riled up for nothing. And I understand his anger there. But he got so mad that it became a screaming fight again. He got so mad that I wouldn't have sex with him, that he almost broke up with me because of it. And again, keep in mind, we just had a fight like the day before, that really bad one. So I'm thinking to myself, is this dude really mad at me because I won't sleep with him? What? I can understand the frustration of me leading him on and then deciding I didn't want to do it anymore. But the fact it got so mentally and like verbally violent so quickly over something so stupid and so small was really telling. So let's get to the final fight. And this is the one I always dread talking about, but it's like the main point of this whole story. Okay, so final fight. We decided to have a game night at his actual house with his mom, and we ended up going to his house and having like a game night with his brother and his girlfriend, who in my mind at the time didn't like me, but her and I had talked about it a few times, and she actually really didn't not like me. Maybe she did, I don't know, but she told me she never not liked me. I think it was just all in my head. But anyways, we were in this argument, you see? Oh boy. So we were sitting down at the kitchen table, and it was his mom's new house, and his mom was really cool. There's some stuff there that I can't talk about. It's none of my business, but they had some, their own problems over there. Not my business. We were sitting down talking and playing this game, and they were like setting up the dryer and washer. Now, my favorite thing about this story is he likes to claim he wasn't drinking. And that is a big fat ass lie, because I know for a fact when we got there, he poured himself a glass of wine, and then he was drinking it, very subtly, very minimally, but he was taking sips here and there as he was setting up the dryer and washer with his mom and his brother. And he was drinking red wine. I'll never forget it. And God, I hate talking about this. They have a dog with a hanging tumor, which I'm hoping at this point they either put down or gave a new home, because this is the whole reason of the fight. They took the dog outside, and the dog was like barking like a lot outside, and his mom got frustrated with it, and when the dog came in, she started sorry. Woo, babe. She started kicking the dog in the tumor. And this dog was, I think it was like blind or like partially blind, and she would put the dog, because the tumor was leaking, so she didn't want the tumor to leak all over the house, so she would put this dog in the closet. It had a bed set up in there and everything, but in the closet, and it was not a closet like that was, it was a door, like a room with a door, a little square room, like where you would put a fucking like shelves to put food in, like that kind of situation, and would shut the door, and the dog was blind, and it kept hitting its head on the door trying to get out, and it just did not sit right with me. I did not like the way she was treating the dog, and I got upset. And I called his mom out and I said, why are you doing that to the dog? Like, the dog didn't do anything. The dog is doing what it's supposed to do. It's barking. It's a dog. In my mind, and I'm not saying this is what it was, but how I felt. I'm talking about how I felt in my part of the story, okay? So when I'm saying things, I'm not saying this is factual of how she is or how she felt or why she was doing it, but in my heart and my feelings, I felt like this dog, let's just put it this way. If my dog had a hanging tumor and I had fear of it leaking, I would never think, let me put it in a closet in the dark and shut the door and let it bang its head on the front door all night long until it falls asleep. I just would never in my right mind put a living thing in a locked room because I didn't want my house to get dirty or I didn't want people to be exposed to the leak. If you can't afford to take your dog to the vet, if you can't afford to get your dog the surgery it needs or whatever it is, or put the dog down because you can tell this dog was miserable. And it was old too. I just don't think you should have a dog if you cannot handle financially the stuff that comes with it, the burden that comes with having animals. So I overstepped my boundary there and I did get in his mom's face and we were going back and forth. Now the difference, what people don't understand is his mom and I have had not arguments like that. That was our first real argument. But his mom and I have had disagreements before. And we do go at it a different way that people don't understand. But her and I within, 20 minutes, okay, we talked it out. I mean, I didn't agree with her and I still don't. But, we didn't let it lag on. I mean, I felt a certain way and I'm just the type of person that I don't stand for animal cruelty. And in my mind, that's abuse. What happened that night in my mind. And she even in the past has said she beats the fuck out of those dogs if they misbehave because she used to, just the way that they were raised, that's the way she raises those dogs. They're her dogs, therefore you have no say. And I do have a say and I don't think it's okay. That doesn't mean I don't like his mom, okay? And so her and I would have disagreements, but we would talk it through and it'd be fine. Well, at this point, Bear, rightfully so, stuck up for his mom, as he should, while trying to also stick up for me to his brother. Because his brother, of course, is like, fuck this girl. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's completely, disrespecting our mom. And do you really want to date a girl like this? And, at that point, keep in mind, I'm already at my lowest. So, I think when it really confirmed for me that his brother didn't like me at this point, I was like, well, why am I here? You know what I mean? Because I really wanted his family to like me. But at the same time, it's very hard to do that when they all don't see what's wrong in that situation. And I felt like it was so obvious to see. You can love somebody and still not agree with their actions. You know what I mean? I guess what it boils down to is they have their own way of, and I don't even like softening this situation because it's not something that should be brushed over, but they have their own way of raising kids and dogs and animals than I do. And I don't find it appropriate and that's all they know. You know what I'm saying? So they're obviously going to stick up for their mom. And I didn't expect anything less. At the same time, I think right is right and wrong is wrong. And I do think that, what I would say Bear in the beginning was trying to do, I think was the right way of doing it, meaning he was trying to hear me out and he understood what was happening was wrong, because I know he knows that. But I think when it started getting out of hand and he realized that me and his mom are going at it, and then his brother, obviously that was the first time I think he's seen me and his mom have an argument or a disagreement that turned very loud. I think that it amped Bear up to feel defensive. You know what I'm saying? Meaning he's trying to stick up for me, he's trying to stick up for his mom, and then he's trying to tell his brother that I'm not this terrible person. And then he's, they're fighting. I mean, they're really going at it. I think at one point they got in each other's face and stuff like that. And what really bothered me, I don't think I need to say this on camera, so I think I'm going to hold off on that. I have no problems with him and I still don't, but And I don't even Bear, the boyfriend at the time, made me pack my suitcase. I had my dog with me, and he's like, I'm taking you home. I said, no problem. And so we get in the car, and it's like dead silent. Now, let me just kind of push in this little situation here, because this is part of the story, so you're not going to understand it if I don't talk about it. There is a guy, I guess I can say his name because he and I still are really good friends now, but Austin, who I was talking to in the midst of our relationship. Now, that's because at this point right now, the boyfriend and I were no longer actually together officially. We were kind of figuring things out, and we were on a break, but we were still hanging out and trying to figure shit out, okay? At this point, he was actually waiting for me to give him the green light because I was talking to him and Austin. I was very open about that. And I told him, and this was in the midst of like him and I just like not being together. And I told him I wanted to venture out because this man that I had been talking to before him, or like during our breaks and stuff like that, was somebody that made me feel good. And like whenever we would fight, like him and I never fought. You know what I'm saying? The difference was this man would never meet me. So I felt like it was not fair to the current, we're saying current boyfriend as in just so you know who I'm talking about, but Bear. I don't think it was fair to Bear for me to get back with him, knowing that I still had like that inkling of what if with Austin. So he was very understanding in that realm, and he knew like I would text Austin right in front of him. And this was towards the end of the relationship. This is not like our entire relationship. This is just when everything kind of went so downhill that like I wanted to kind of move on, and I just couldn't. I was stuck in this like warp with him, you know? I remember we were in the car. I was like dead silent. I had my dog on my lap, and I remember texting Ash, the female friend that we always fought about, and letting her know like, you know, what's going on and stuff like that. And then I remember he, at one point, we were on the highway, and I remember him turning around. He's like, I'm taking you back to the house, like his house. And I was so mad at that point because I just wanted to go home at this point. And I'm going to disclaim right here that I, at this very moment, was very, very, very upset and very verbally abusive to him. I was very upset. I was calling him an animal abuser. I was saying that he didn't deserve to have animals. I was saying that he's a piece of shit. I was like, any name in the book, I probably said to him, saying all these things to him. And I think I was really amping up his anger. Oh, did I mention though, at the hotel, he did say to me, he was like, I wanted to hit you last night, but I didn't. I don't know if I told you that. I think I did in the story, but if I didn't, he did say that to me. So keep in mind, we'll talk about all that later, but I just want you to know that that did come out of his mouth. At the hotel, the motel situation, he did say the next morning, I wanted to hit you last night, but I didn't. And I was like, whatever. I didn't believe him. So anyway, so we're in the car. And I don't know what it was, but I had like a really bad feeling about the situation. And when he turned that car around, I just realized in that moment, like, I need to get home, like now. So I told him, like, I started slapping his arm, like, turn the car around, turn the car around. I'm screaming at him. I'm calling him a piece of shit. I'm in his face, and he's driving. I should not have done that, but I was so mad that he turned that car around. Like, I needed to get home. And I remember texting Austin, and I said, this is the last text message I sent out on my phone. I said, all I said was 3 words. I'm in danger. I don't know what made me say that. I don't know. But I said, I'm in danger. Last thing I remember is him taking my phone, and I think it either flew through the dashboard or something like that happened with it. And he just went ham on me. I'm talking punched me 7 to 8 times all over the face, which I'm going to include the clips right here of all the pictures. Yeah, he went in. All that anger, all those times he said he was going to hit me, or all that one time he's like, I wanted to hit you last night, but I didn't. Those were warnings. Those weren't opinions. Those were not statements. Those were promises, okay? He was basically letting me know the next time you piss me off, it's going down. You know what I mean? And so he's driving like this, and he's punching me with this arm. I mean, going in. I don't even remember. I blacked out at some point. I mean, not blacked out as in drunk, blacked out as in like, what the fuck is going on? I remember kept saying, okay. I remember doing that. At that point, he stopped the car in the middle of the highway and took my suitcase out of the car, threw it on the ground, kicked me, and I almost forgot. Like, I not forgot my dog, but I almost, because I was so fucked up, like bleeding everywhere. I remember just like saying, okay, let me get Aspen, hold on. And he kicked me out of the car and drove off and left me on the highway for dead, literally. And I think what happened, and again, I'm only speaking from my feelings, I think when he drove off, about maybe 10 minutes in, I think he realized what the fuck he just did. And I think he realized there's no way he's going to leave me there, because he has a warrant out for his arrest. I think at that point he still did. Or maybe it was paid off. I'm not sure. I think he actually had it paid off at that point. Maybe? I don't know. Because when he drove off, I ended up picking up Aspen, and I kind of woke up like realizing that this wasn't like a movie. This was real life. And I remember talking to myself. I had no shoes on. I had like a tank top on or something like that, and like pajama pants, and it's freezing outside. I think it was December 18th that this all went down. And I remember picking up Aspen, and I remember running to the nearest gas station, and I had looked so fucking bad that the clerk guy at the gas station wouldn't even open the doors, wouldn't call 911, did not want to be involved whatsoever. So I pick up Aspen, I start running through this neighborhood I found off the highway, and I start knocking on everyone's doors. Nobody's answering the door. I all of a sudden see Bear drive back into the neighborhood. He somehow found me. I don't know how. Obviously I was right off the highway, so it wouldn't be hard to find me, but I have my phone. Keep that in mind. I didn't have any way of contacting anyone. And I'm in Louisville at this point, so I live in Dallas, okay? So it's a good ways away. So I'm knocking, I'm panicking when I see his car, because I'm thinking he's coming to finish the job. Like, there's just no way. There's no way he'd come back just to have a conversation. And so finally somebody had answered the door and comes outside. He drives off, and that's when he goes home. I believe he probably called his mom in panic mode. And I think that he switched cars with his mom because he was drinking and driving, which he likes to claim he never drank, but he did. And I think that his mom drove him to the hospital where I was at. So I had like 2 ambulances show up, like 5 or 6 cop cars looking for him and stuff like that. And when I got to the hospital, I was super belligerent, and I was drunk. I was drinking for sure. And I remember my stepdad didn't even know that we were like together. I kind of kept it a secret, and I think because I knew back in the back of my head, like, this wasn't going anywhere, and I don't like introducing people to my family that, like, I'm not going to marry. Like, why would I waste that? Why would I waste my time doing that? You know what I mean? And they kept asking me, like, were we a couple? And I kept saying no, because I've never been in a domestic situation. And for those who don't know, if you guys are not like permanently a couple, or if you guys both state that you are not dating, like, they cannot arrest someone for domestic violence. They would have to be arrested for assault. So the cops kept trying to get me to say yes, we were a couple, so they could arrest him that night, but I didn't understand the memo. And my stepdad was in there, and I also felt really embarrassed because he didn't even know I had a boyfriend or a guy that I was dating, let alone a guy that just beat the shit out of me. And they didn't even ask him to leave the room so I can talk to the cops. So I felt just annoyed. I felt annoyed because my face was like bleeding and gushing in. I had to get mouth surgery and all this crap on my teeth. And he's in the lobby, and he's there, and they're not arresting him. And I think I was just so like ready for him to get punished that I just wasn't understanding that they were trying to do just that. I just wasn't cooperating. So they took pictures of him too, which is funny to me because he claims that he did what he did out of self-defense. Let's talk about that for a minute. If that was true, where are your pictures? Because I know you're smarter than that. I know you are, Bear. And if things are really what they are, and you really said that, and you really believe that that's the situation, where are your pictures? Because I know you're not dumb enough to not take pictures. And I know that the cops took pictures that night too. Why don't you pull off that report? You know you can get a copy of that report, because I know I did. I got a copy of it the very next day. I took pictures right afterwards. And by the way, the pictures that I'm showing on this video was after the emergency room, after taking medicine to swell it down. I was worse walking in, okay? If that were true, Bear, then why did you warn me before the incident that you were going to do exactly what you did that night? I wanted to hit you last night, but I didn't. Why would you say that and then not even 2 nights later do it, and then claim it was out of self-defense. I was hitting your arm because I wanted you to turn the car back around because you literally made a U-turn in the middle of the fucking highway and took me back to or were trying to take me back to your house. You made me feel unsafe and uncomfortable, and I wanted to go home. I got mad. I started hitting your arm. I don't know if you guys saw the movie Uptown Girl, but there's a part in the movie where the little girl is like punching Brittany Murphy in the stomach, like at the festival. Not to punch her and hurt her, but out of anger. She was like trying to get her attention, and all she wanted was a hug. And when Brittany Murphy, I'll show like the scene in this movie, what I'm talking about. All she wanted was a hug. When I was hitting Bear in the arm, it was like, first of all, it wasn't even hard. I was just like this, really easy, like that. And all I wanted him to do was just calm me down and hug me. That's it. I didn't want to fight. I don't understand how that would be self-defense, because there's not one mark on your face. The scratches, all this bullshit that I heard, like, oh, you have scratches on me. Yeah, you have scratches on you probably from me trying to get you off me when you were punching me 8 times in the face. I don't know, just a thought. Look, at the end of the day, I understand he's probably so embarrassed for what he did, and he's going to live it down till he dies that he did not do what he did on purpose. But I'm here to tell you, as the person who got hit in the face and has dealt with him for almost a year at that point in our lives, that he 100% meant to do it. It was 100% premeditated. It was 100% violent on his part and intentional. So whatever you want to believe is up to you. But I'm here to tell you that 2 years later, I still don't feel I still don't feel like I got enough closure, if you will. I guess closure is not a real thing, but there's something there that's just making me want to keep talking about it. Maybe it might be this video. Maybe it's me getting it out to the world in a full video, not a 60-second video on TikTok. Maybe so discombobulated in my brain that I saw him again afterwards, and it was like 6 months afterwards, and we ended up having sex, and that he was still talking to this other female, and he's literally talking about her to me. Meanwhile, we hung out like 2 or 3 more times after that, and the third time was the final time, and that was right before he went to VidCon. And then he did the silent treatment again, and we haven't spoke since. He claims he told her. I'm hoping for the sake of his relationship he did. It never gets better. And it gets to one of those things where your mind mentally is so fogged up and so discombobulated and so misoriented that you literally forget what reality is, and you forget like what the right choice is, and you forget what you're doing, like, is so wrong and like unhealthy. You don't know anything else. And what comes with dating a narcissist will never believe that they're a narcissist, or a narcissist will pretend that they think they're a narcissist just so to hide the fact that they think they're not. They're master manipulators. They literally make you feel wrong all the time. They love to mask their identity, and they love nice people. They love people that have a good head on their shoulders, have a better future than them, or everything they basically want to be. That's what a narc will go towards. So when the nice people are like, I don't know why I keep attracting this type of person, it's because you're everything they want to be and will never be. And in their minds, they feed off that. So they're sucking the life out of you, out of everything you live for, all the good things, and they want to make you feel absolutely terrible and on their level. And then when they can't get anything from you, they literally discard you and go to the next person. And everything that you guys had is completely fake. It was never real. I think when you put yourself in a situation that is no longer serving you a good purpose, no longer making you happy, no longer benefiting you guys and both and consecutively, there is no reason to prolong a relationship to get to the point that I did. mentally you always want to be so good for this person, and you want to be everything they want. And what happens is you lose yourself in the midst of doing all of that, and it's just not worth it for for your own mental clarity, for your own peace. There's no need for it. There's so many people out in the world that can give you what you want. And look, I wish nothing but the best for him, and I hope that he's happy. I'm sure that he is, because they always are. But I really hope for his own mental clarity that he got help, and I really hope that he's not being applauded for his behavior that night. There's a lot of people that till this day don't believe me. And what's funny to me is that's what narcs do. They're so good at manipulating that even their friends can see pictures and proof of what happened to me and somehow figure that it was my fault. Narcissist friends will never see the man that you were or the woman that you knew. They only are shown a certain part of their personality that is good, that is likable, that is sociable. They don't see the dark sides of this person, and they never will. So therefore, your story to their friends are meaningless, because there's no way that their friend can do something like that. And that is part 1 of the story. I will be doing a part 2, and I will be interviewing a diagnosed narcissist who will forever be one, but understands that he is one and is trying to help the world a better place and understand the world of narcissists at a deeper level. So I will be doing an interview with him, but I wanted you guys to understand what I went through. And again, this is not the only relationship I've been through with a narcissist, but this is the most deep, dark one I've ever been with a narcissist. So really hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I know it was a little bit heavy, but it was necessary, and it was about time to just put it out there to the world instead of avoiding it or just telling little bits and parts. I mean, there's a lot to it that I didn't mention, and I don't think it's necessary to mention. And I'm again saying that I was no angel in this relationship. But I will say that his actions up and, in those arguments that I specifically mentioned, that were the biggest parts of our relationship, which is why I mentioned those stories versus all the other small ones we've had, is because those were the most meaningful ones in the way of they were so bad that they really, really opened my eyes on what I deserve. And I'm sure, and I'm hoping that it did for him too. So I feel much better now. I feel much better that I got it out in the open. And anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like and a thumbs up, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. But go ahead and subscribe as well. Comment down below any stories that you want to share. I will definitely read them. But yeah, I look forward to talking to you guys soon, and I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.